So today we're doing a banana bread with a little zest. Not that type of zest, but some orange zest. So we're doing some dried orange zest that has been ground to powder. We're doing some Angostura Orange Bitters, as well as the glaze that we're going to put on it after is going to have some orange in it also. First thing we're going to start doing is toasting the walnuts. Now, toasting it brings the flavor out some more. It releases the oils out of it, and you're going to smell when it kind of tells you when it's done toasting. Maybe a little 5 minutes, maybe 5 to 7 minutes, not even so long even. So, heat your pan. And just toss it around the pan. You don't want it to get burnt while you're toasting it. So that's what we don't want at all. We don't want to add any burnt flavor to the banana bread itself. So now that it's done toasting, and you can smell the aroma coming up from it. You know, you're smelling the walnuts a little more pronounced now. So just put it on the plate. And you just want it to cool down a bit before you put it into the banana bread. So the next thing we're going to do is make sour cream. Sour cream you don't always find at the grocery when you're looking for it. So most of the times I end up making a mock sour cream myself, and you can either use white vinegar or lemon juice. I tend to use more lemon juice, but I have vinegar today, so we're trying it with the vinegar. And I like to use whipping cream in particular. There are other creams, but I like to use whipping cream. All right, so I'm doing, I just need half a cup. So I'm doing half a cup of whipping cream to half a tablespoon of vinegar. Just pour it in. You're gonna just mix it around a bit and just leave it to stand for 5 minutes. That's all it needs, 5 minutes. And then you mix it fully and add it to your recipe. As we continue, we're adding some melted butter. You could use salted or unsalted butter. It's not a big deal. If you're using unsalted, I tend to add a little more salt to it because salt just makes things magical. All right? Sugar. The recipe calls for a cup of sugar, but I use a little less sugar in my recipe because I find that it makes the cake moreish, and a lot of things are so sweet these days. You're also getting the sweetness from the bananas too, so you don't want overkill. A little less makes it moreish. You're just going to combine the sugar and the melted butter. Then you're going to add your eggs. It just calls for 2 eggs for this recipe. Remember, crack your eggs one at a time, because you don't want to encounter a bad egg when you're doing this. So crack it one at a time, add it one at a time. Sometimes it may seem a little painstaking, but one at a time. Take it from somebody who has learned the hard way. And the nice thing with this recipe is that you don't need a hand mixer, you don't need a standing mixer. It's a very simple recipe that you just need your hand, a bowl, your ingredients, and mix it together. Now, when you melt the butter, you don't want it too hot or too warm, because as you start to add the eggs, you don't want the heat of the butter to cook your eggs. All right, or you just have to throw everything out and start over again. Right, so this butter was already melted and cooled, so we're good to go. Add your dry ingredients to the flour. First, we have 1 teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon salt, half a teaspoon of Badawi's lovely ground orange zest. I'm real proud of him with that. He introduced me to that, and it's like I can't forget it since then. The flour was pre-sifted. You're just adding the ingredients and you're just mixing it in. So everything will be evenly distributed when you add it to the wet ingredients. Now when you're adding the wet ingredients, add a bit at a time. Don't try to mix all in at once. It makes it too lumpy and it makes it difficult to use. So I'll put this in about 3 or 4 parts. You do have the option of using a mixer if you like, but it's really not necessary. If you want to get technical like I do sometimes, you could measure it out 1 pot spoon at a time so you know that you're not putting too much or too little when you're mixing it in. And always scrape the sides of your bowl as you are going along. Right about here is where I like to add my bitters. Now, we're not measuring out bitters, huh? Going until your ancestors tell you, give me a ease up. Hold your hand. Like about 3 to 5 shakes, and you're good to go. You can already smell the aroma coming through. How the vinegar caused the sour cream to curdle and thicken. Alright, so you add this to your batter now. And you fold it in. So now we have a nice, smooth batter. And you say you didn't need a mixer. Your hand will do just fine. Now you're going to take your bananas and mash them. They don't have to be perfectly mashed. If you want bigger pieces and bigger chunks, you could cut the banana into small pieces too. Or you could just slice it thinly. Depends on what your preference is. Some people like it mashed completely, like me. I like it mashed and distributed more throughout the banana bread. Some people like to have chunks of it on it. Even if you want to lay out, cut 2 slices and lay it along the top for decoration, you could do that too. Alright, so this is the second to last thing you're adding to your batter, which is the bananas. And you just fold it in. So now the last thing you're going to fold in is your walnuts that we had cooling. So the next thing we're going to do is to line your baking pan with parchment paper. You can grease and flour it also, but I found I like the parchment paper. It's a little more work, yes, but your cake comes out clean, it comes out easy, less fuss. And you don't have to worry sometimes, you know, you're taking it out and part of it break, the bottom stay back, the side look like somebody, like a shark, take a piece and go on. You don't want any of that. So let me show you how to, I wouldn't say simple way, but let me show you how to make one for a loaf pan. So the sheet you get a fairly good sized piece of parchment paper. One that is definitely bigger than the sheet. Alright? So what I'm going to do, I always have a mechanical pencil. Alright? So it doesn't have to be perfectly aligned in the middle, but once it's as close to the middle as possible, I'm going to use the pan itself as a ruler. So you don't need no set of fancy equipment. And what you can do this before you actually start mixing your ingredients together. So when you're finished, it's just to pour the batter into the pan and stick it in the oven. Alright, so you see what I've done, right? You're just cutting, you see the corners here, you're cutting those out. If you make a little mistake and cut beyond it, don't worry about it. Right. you end up with this sheet. What you're going to do, you see on the lines that you folded, bend the paper. Just say it does not have to be perfect, but it just makes life easier. So now when you put it in, it fits in like that, and your batter goes into the middle. But before that, cooking spray. On all sides. This is so the parchment paper would stick to the baking pan. And just smooth down the sides like that. So what the cooking spray does, allows it to stick to the pan, and also even that the edges here were still exposed. You know, when you're taking it out, you're not going to have the batter or the finished banana bread sticking to the pan itself and causing issues. It'll slide out nicely. There you go, you just smooth it out. Alright, so we have a nice oven ready, banana bread ready to pop in. So you're going to bake it for an hour at 350 degrees. If after an hour it has not finished baked, then pop it back in for like a little 5 to 7 minutes and test it again, because what you don't want is for it to dry out. You want that moisture to retain and stay in it. So now we're going to do the glaze for the banana bread. So 1 cup of ice and sugar. You're going to zest, you see this lovely part out here, this nice skin? You're going to use the zest of it. Now don't go all the way down to the white part, because you don't want it to become bitter. You just want the flavor of the skin, but you don't want the bitterness of it. So the white part tends to be a bit bitter. Try not to go down to that part. So what you're doing is the full zest of 1 orange. Alright, so just give your orange a little roll. Alright. Just kind of free up the juices and such. Okay. Don't mind if your seeds jump onto the counter. Just add a few drops of your bitters, not too much. Now you're going to start mixing this. You don't need a lot of liquid when it comes to mixing a glaze. So I didn't squeeze all of the orange juice into it as yet, because you don't want it to be too runny. You see? Right. You can add more bitters. We do measure out bitters, as I said, just pour until the ancestors tell you. Ease your hand. Just nice and runny enough, not too runny. Ice and sugar, bitters, orange juice, zest, and you have a nice simple orange glaze. What I'm also going to do is add a pinch of salt, in fact 2 pinches of salt to the glaze. What that does is balance out the sweetness, and you actually taste the orange zest and the orange flavor coming through a lot more. Just mix that in, and the salt really does make a difference. I'm going to remove the parchment paper and put it onto our fancy plate. Alright. So you see how easy it comes out with the parchment paper. Just put it up here on the 4 sides. Side. And here you have your banana bread. So now we're going to put the glaze on it. You could put as much as you want. If you want to put on the whole thing, if you want to put as you're having a slice, you can do that, or you can do both. Just drizzle. Nothing fancy. Doesn't even have to be a sugar overkill. Because at the end of the day, you want to enjoy it. Right. That's about it. And last of that zest that we had there. And there you go. Banana bread with a little zest. And here you have it. Banana bread with an orange glaze. And I'm going to have a taste right now. Definitely get some of that glaze in. Don't fall and don't embarrass me sooner. Oh my God. You surprise yourself sometimes. Yeah. Nice and moist. Nice crunch from the walnuts. Excuse me. I'll see you all. Have a good time. So thank you, Angostura, for sponsoring this episode. Go out and get yourself a bottle of orange bitters. Try the recipe. Try it in any other recipe. Let us know how it goes. Let us know how you like it. Share with us. Have a good one. Bye.